Hello everyone, thank you for joining us on this edition of The Inside. I am Babla Jonathan. In this edition of the program, we're looking at the restoration of peace in the crisis-stricken northwest and southwest regions of the Republic of Cameroon. Killings, destruction, and other atrocities have been going on for more than 6 years now. And today we are continuing with our series on peace in the crisis-stricken regions. We will also talk about the protection of Cameroon's forest and wildlife, and we are focusing particularly on protected animal species, more specifically the endangered pangolin, which is threatened by illegal and unsustainable use in the business of bushmeat, exposing the traders and the consumers to the risk of zoonotic disease transmission. And we're going to talk about traditional rulers in Cameroon who are coming together to help protect the country's forest and wildlife that are considered the cornerstone of Cameroon's cultural heritage. And the traditional leaders in Cameroon have joined forces with Wild Aid, calling for the protection of the country's forest and wildlife species, particularly the endangered pangolin. Meet our guest in some few seconds. Thank you for staying with us. Our guest today is His Royal Majesty Fon Zofwa III, traditional leader of Babongo in Kutunja Division, Northwest region of the Republic of Cameroon. His Royal Majesty, you're welcome to the program.
Thanks for inviting me. I'm so glad to be here today.
What is the state of the socio-political and security atmosphere, climate in the Babongo?
I would say the political climate, the security situation in Babongo is not the best, just like that of the Northwest region is not really the best. It's true that things are gradually coming to normalcy, but we still have a series of kidnappings. We still have a series of killings going on, and the atmosphere is still tense, thereby having a serious impact on us to perform traditional rites, on us traditional rulers to have cultural festivals and to have the normal activities we should have in the village. Is kind of very risky to always be around, because you don't know from where a stray bullet will take you.
When was the last time you organized the traditional cultural festival of the people of Babongo?
The last edition was in 2017. Till date, we have not had any cultural festival again in Babongo because of the security situation, which is not very easy. So we pray that things should come back to normalcy. We pray that the government, our children, all the forces that are in place should put heads together and see how we can come out with a lasting solution and lasting peace for the Northwest region and for Cameroon as a whole.
How are the people of Babongo, your subjects, coping with this uncertain climate, uncertainty looming over the village and the two English, as it is the case across the two English-speaking regions of the country?
The people are not comfortable. It's not easy to cope with what, like I said, it's not easy to cope with the prevailing situation. Obviously, you find young people, they have left the village. The village is almost empty. Then you have unwanted pregnancies here and there, especially when schools are not very effective now. So it's not been easy, and honestly, we are losing a lot. We are losing a lot. I think it's high time we come back to our senses. It's high time we have a rethink. One musician said, "He who fights and runs away lives to fight another day." I think those are the words of Bob Marley. I think there's a time for peace. There's a time to fight. There's time for peace. There's time for everything. So we know from the Bible, and this is time for us to put heads together and call for peace.
And the question that is coming up again and again is how to come to this point of peace, compromise with everybody coming on board, as you're calling on all parties to put hands together how to do this? What will you give as advice to all the parties involved in all of what is happening?
The first thing I will suggest, which I've been talking with my colleague funds, we've been saying that it's not a one-way thing. It's something that involves the elites also. The elites need to come together. You remember that in the Northwest region, we had the Northwest Funds Union. It's no longer existing. You remember that we had a Northwest elites meeting. But that meeting is no longer existing. We don't have a general meeting where all the elites of the Northwest region can come together and think like one person. It's no longer existing. And if the funds can't come together, anyway, there's a House of Chiefs that is there, but it doesn't really carry the aspirations of the entire funds of the Northwest, because it's a minority. So we need another meeting. We need a foreign Northwest Funds Union where the funds can sit together, deliberate, and then carry their ideas now into
the House of Chiefs.
Into the House of Chiefs, so that their voices could be heard. That aspect also is lacking, and we really need to come together as one person so that our voices can be heard.
And that come together should definitely bring together the people from the two regions who are in this, the two regions that are in this crisis. I mean, Northwest and Southwest regions, all the traditional rulers, all the stakeholders.
Yeah. I'm talking here first about the Northwest region, because if we start from our base from Northwest region, while the Southwest chiefs are doing same. After that, I think we can come together and say something. Also, remember that the chiefs of Cameroon have what they call the National Council of Cameroon Traditional Rulers, which I remember. Since this crisis started, the council has never come together to take a position to actually do something or try to go into the regions and try to see how we can make peace, how we can give peace a chance. One thing we should also remember is that the traditional rulers are at the base, and they know their people, they know their children, they know their mothers, they know their fathers, they know everybody in the environment, and the presence of the traditional ruler in the society helps a lot to solve a lot of problems around the community.
All right, you have been with your people, but some of your peers have been out of their fiefdoms for a long time. Some of them are said to have even abdicated their post. And the question is, what are traditional rulers doing? What are they supposed to be doing in this whole saga? Because the people will definitely listen more to their traditional rulers, even though the palace has been somehow politicized today. But in the Northwest region in particular, we still have that respect for the traditional authority, for the funds and so on.
Starting with me, I've not been in the village for quite some time. I've been going to the village for 1-2 weeks, and I leave. I'm not really based in the village now, as you can see. I'm coming here like this from Yaoundé. That's exactly what I was saying, that most of our colleagues, most of the traditional rulers are not in their palaces. Some of them who are even in the palaces, you remember, some of them have been shot dead, some of them have been kidnapped, some of them have been. So there's been, we have entered into a situation where there's a lot of laissez-faire in the Northwest, coupled with the fact that some traditional rulers who are rooted into politics, they also, I don't want to use words here, it's also helped, to incite tension amongst our people, because when you take side, it's difficult for you to mediate. You cannot be a mediator when you have openly taken side with any of let me call it the parties.
All right. I want you to look at this camera right in front of you and send a message of peace to your people.
I would say.
You can do that in the local language.
Yes. I would say it's not easy. It's not been easy for all these years, for 6 years. Let us come back to our senses. Let us talk to our consciences. Let us talk to ourselves and give peace a chance. Let us give peace a chance. Nazime que c'était bon on pas avant le fofine pas avant zofon avant pas avant zofon là et djue sin ba bonne kai et djue sin ba kwa te ton yan sin et djue un sin kwa te ka vous yang ke ba que vous ke ba que falme vous bon djue tâche bon chacun sin bolan sin anendi vous yang ga fa sin ko bi ga fi ba.
All right. I'm not sure I heard what you said, but I believe the people have heard. People have heard the message.
It's a call for peace. It's a call for peace. And it's a call for our cultural festival to come back, and for my people to come back and build Babungo Kingdom.
Let's go to the newsstands, and Immaculate Fugu will tell us what the newspapers reported this week.
To end the conflict in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon, the Horizon reports what it calls the Preventing Potential Perpetrator Strategy. A new UN report highlights embargo as a possible option after the failure of the Swiss and Canadian mediation. Cameroon Tribune projects parliamentary condemnation of recent atrocities recorded in the more than 6-year-long conflict. During the opening of the second parliamentary session of the current legislative year, House Speaker Honorable Kavayege Jibril, speaking on behalf of his peers, condemned the abduction of over 30 women in Babanke. Another issue of the National Daily underscores the great mobilization of government authorities against hate speech. But according to the Garden Post, the government officials in their fight against hate speech are condemning what they promote. The Horizon reports that the fight against indiscriminate garbage disposal has taken a repressive turn, with the Yaoundé City Mayor instituting fines on defaulters arrested. It is reported in another issue of the Garden Post that panic has gripped secondary school teachers as Minister Nalova Lyonga goes tough on absenteeism, while another issue talks about the 381.8 billion francs CFA increase of the 2023 state budget by President Paul Biya to reinforce the Northwest, Southwest and Far North reconstruction. Ahead of the National Elective Convention of the Social Democratic Front SDF party, the reporter views a cleared path for First Vice President Honorable Joshua Osi to succeed National Chairman Nijon Frundi. And Newswatch says Honorable Joshua Osi is already in chairman government. The Post reports that former Ivorian President Laurent Gbagbo is to attend the SDF convention. The Guardian Post tells its readers that the Nigerian delegation stormed out of the Council's International Forum in Yaoundé, while mayors from the Northwest and Southwest regions grumble over neglect of the English language. The Guardian Post sports: the Cameroon Football Federation FECAFOOT slams a 5-year ban on Bafut Rangers and UMS Football Club presidents.
Thank you, Immaculate Fogwe, for the press review. Now we want to talk about the protection of the country's forest and wildlife, and Cameroon's traditional leaders are coming together to help protect the country's forest and wildlife, and this with the aid of Wild Aid, and particularly we're going to focus on the protection of protected wildlife species, notably the pangolin that is today threatened by illegal activities, illegal and unsustainable use, notably as bushmeat and the trade of bushmeat, and of course exposing the traders and the consumers to the risk of zoonotic disease transmission. Your Majesty, what's the relationship between your people and the pangolin, protected wildlife species like the pangolin?
Thank you for this. I'll start by saying that traditionally, and as people that we live in a forestry environment in the Northwest, we are directly linked to the environment. Without the environment, we are nothing. because we have roots of trees, backs of trees, the forests, the rivers, everything around us. It is what makes us traditional rulers, is what makes our cultural festivals. It is what helps us in healing traditional medicines and any other thing. It is the environment. So we are directly attached to our environment. Our environment is like our roots.
All right, so I put my question again. What is the relationship between the environment and the local people, the local population of your community? And you're talking about the people being close to the environment, and the environment, and of course the natural resources there in the forest, the animal species, also being exploited, are also being used by the people. And so how much do the people depend on their environment and natural resources, including vegetation and animals? How much do the people depend on these natural resources?
I can say the people depend 95% to the environment, because in a community we need the rivers, we need healing, we need to eat, we need everything, and it's the environment that provides all this for us. So we are directly attached to the environment, and there's no way we can be separated from the environment. Without the environment, it will mean extinction of the human race, especially for us in the villages.
All right. So, what's the perception of the people about the fact that some animals are said to be protected species, including the pangolin, for example? What do they think about the fact that non-governmental organizations like Wild Aid and others, and you, the traditional ruler, you're asking them to protect this very animal that they have been hunting for bushmeat?
No, urban people will not understand how our people, our community, the villagers who've been living on this so-called on this bushmeat for years, and suddenly you tell them that this meat should be protected. It's a protected species, and they should stop eating the meat. It's at times it's not very understanding to them. They need a lot of time, a lot of sensitization for them to come to terms with the fact that this meat is protected. So it's not a day's job. It's difficult, but we are doing it. We have stood up to protect the environment, and we are passing the message across. Gradually, people are getting to know and to understand.
All right, you're part of the traditional leaders who are working with Wild Aid to call for the protection of these wildlife species, including the pangolin. Why did you decide to, because not all the traditional rulers are doing that, what prompted you to join that struggle for the protection of the pangolin and other wildlife species?
Even before I tell you what prompted me to join this fight for the protection of the pangolin, you know, the pangolin is first of all a docile animal. It's a nice animal. An animal that has no teeth. You know, the way it eats, it feeds on termites. It feeds on termites and ants using its tongue. It has a very long tongue. It can stand and pick a termite from a very long distance, and it doesn't hurt human beings. So it's an animal that's environmental friendly, and you know, in Babongo they call it nyavengi. Vengi means your nails, the fingernails. You know, it's an animal that's very simple. Nyavengi. Yes. That's how it's been called in Babongo. And that's
what's the meaning of that? The literal translation of that?
Yeah, the literal translation. Your fingernails. These are the nails that you have.
Yes.
Your fingernails. So the animal with nails all over its body. That's the pangolin. So Babungu
Okay, so
people
description of the
of
physical
the of the
appearance.
physical appearance of the animal. Nyavengi.
Nyamwenyi.
So that when you see the vengi on an animal, you know that is a pangolin, and that's how we started protecting the pangolin from being extinct from our community, and that's how I got to join the fight also, for us to know the importance of this creature and how we can protect it.
Is it highly consumed by the people? Are the people killing and selling as other animals like rat, moose, and so on?
You know, the pangolin is very rare, and little children see it even to be fight food. So not everybody really develop that appetite to eat a pangolin. Though it's known all over the world that the pangolin is the highest animal that's been pirated, that's been
Trafficked.
trafficked. Thank you for that word. Yeah. So most often we don't really embark on eating it because you can't eat it with the vengi. It's not like the rat mold that you can take and just pass it on the fire and roast it. So you need to peel it. Though some people say the skin are used for traditional medicine, traditional this. I think when people do that, they are just charlatans, because it's not true. There's no way the nails of a pangolin can give you protection. It's not true. So people just use it to frighten and to tell people things that are not founded. So that's why we stood up to say no to that, like traditional rulers, to tell our people that here we are being deceived and we should fight and make sure this creature should exist.
So it's mostly hunted for sale, not really for local consumption.
It's mostly hunted for sale, not for local consumption. Yeah.
Right. What role do you play as a traditional ruler to convince the people not to kill the pangolin and other protected species like the chimpanzee and the others? What role do you play as a traditional ruler in getting the people to understand that this thing, we shouldn't be killing it, but rather we should protect it?
I think we do this by making people to understand the reason for a change of lifestyle. You have a change of lifestyle because there are other options which we can. There are other methods through which we can have meat, we can have food, we can have bush meat, not just the pangolin. You know, we need to know those species that are being protected. We have options. We have chickens, we have other animals which we can use for food. We must not go but on pangolin. So we, the traditional rulers, we are coming together to even come up with announcements from the Ngumba. I hope you know the meaning of Ngumba in the Northwest region. Yeah. To announce to the people that pangolins are animals that are protected, and that if you are caught with it, then you'll be facing the law, traditionally first, before administrative. That's why we are coming together for this fight.
When the traditional secret society comes in, that makes it much more serious.
Yes. Yeah. When we come in, when the traditional secret society, the Mumba comes in, we now evoke our ancestors to help us. When we are sleeping, our ancestors will be watching against those evildoers, those who are going against the customs and traditions of the land.
Right. Are you also inviting God to protect the animals and the people?
We are inviting our ancestors to protect the pangolin.
All right. Okay. Now, is the message going through? Is the message of protection of these animals going through? Are the people receptive?
I can say the message is going through. It's going through because we are here at Equinoxe. Tomorrow we might be in another media. The people are listening to us and they are seeing the reason to protect the pangolin. They are seeing the reason why their traditional rulers are going out to talk about these animals. So I think the message is going through, but slowly and gradually we will keep doing it, and I'm sure everybody will be sensitized.
Now, if all traditional rulers in Cameroon were to come together in this initiative, how much will that go? How far will that go to enhance the protection of these animal species all across the national territory, especially in those areas where the people are more close to nature, like in the east, where you have the pygmies who are mostly depending almost 100% on nature and these resources, forest and the resources.
You see, other people do this out of ignorance. There are other traditional rulers that do it out of ignorance. They don't even know that this particular animal is protected, this one is not protected. So for the traditional rulers to come together, the message will be more stronger. If we could have seminars, we could have opportunities of moving to those communities in the East region and talking to the local population and talking to those who are there, the traditional rulers, especially the traditional council also, and making them to understand the
importance,
the need, to protect the environment, to protect the pangolin. That will be very great. That will be wonderful.
All right.
And one thing we should also understand is that, most of the insects that the pangolin eats are insects that are not environmentally friendly, thereby helping us to clean our environment and protecting us from those insects that can be harmful to the human being.
All right. Some think that it's not normal for, this is the way they put it, the white man to come and tell us, stop eating this animal that our forefathers ate, or stop killing this animal and selling, rather protect it. And some people find it not very coherent to say that instead of protecting human beings should be protecting animals.
Yes, what we should know is this is not an issue of the white man. It's an issue that concerns us. Because if your neighbor tells you to be careful with this food because it will harm you, it can be toxic to you, you don't need to know if the person is a white man or the person is whatsoever. And we actually need it. We actually need people to tell us, just like you go to the hospital and you are being prescribed drugs. So why should we accept the drugs from the white man and accept those things that can help us live longer and not also listen to the other part of the story, to the other part of animals which we need to protect? Actually, most of the things that we say, or most of the things that you might hear us talk about the white man, they are being tested in laboratories. They are being proven to be good for the environment. That's why we also, on the field, we've gone around and we've seen that there's a need to protect the pangolin.
All right, we'll come back in a short while to talk more about this effort to protect the pangolin and other wildlife species. But before that, in the place of interviews of the week, today we are having a discussion on wealth creation with Dr. Stephen Akintayo. We are looking at some key issues that can help that can produce more millionaires, why not billionaires, in Cameroon, Africa, and beyond. And of course, more importantly, boost Africa's economic and financial independence. Dr. Stephen Akintayo is a Nigerian intercontinental real estate tycoon and author of the book Billionaire Habits. We're going to receive him in a short while. Good evening, Dr. Stephen Akintayo.
Good evening.
What exactly do you mean by billionaire habits? This is the title of your book.
Thank you for having me on your show. So, the book, The Billionaire Habits, chronicles the secrets of wealthy people. And we're talking about those who made legitimately as entrepreneurs, who understand that money is a exchange of value.
What are those billionaire or bit still wealth creation principles that that should be respected by anyone, group of persons, entrepreneurs, and nations that aspire to become rich?
And one of the powerful principles that oftentimes a lot of us who aspire to be rich do not realize is that your habits determines your decisions. Your decisions determines your destiny. So if you don't have the right habits that is helping you to build wealth, you will remain poor. And many of our African cultural principles are actually principles that, if they are not well balanced, okay, leads to penury. For example, destiny determines who will be wealthy. Okay, all faiths disagree with that. For those who are Christian, there's a particular story of a man called Jabez. Now, if anybody had a destiny of poverty or failure, it was Jabez, right? But in the Bible, the same Jabez that even the mother cursed him and his trajectory was always failure, prayed to God and said he wanted a change. And the Bible recorded that the latter years of Jabez changed. So what does this mean? It means that you and I have capacity to influence and change our destiny if we actually want to. And that's really part of the principles that is chronicled in the book.
Now, another principle contained in your book
Well,
is the culture or habit of saving. Tell us more about
wealthy
that.
people have built a culture of saving. Now I understand that people will often tell you that, but I don't have enough. So how can I save? But you see, nobody was born rich. When we're all born, we're born based on the status we have. We're all born poor anyway. Some of us, maybe those who had wealthy parents, that influenced. But most of those parents too were poor. So somebody in a lineage decided to be rich and started taking actions towards wealth. But if you ask those people, they will tell you they began the culture of sales. My parents were not wealthy. My mother was a civil servant. My father's business had come before I was born. We grew up in a village where there was no running water, there was no electricity. But I decided I wanted to be rich, right? I started reading books on money at the age of 18. And today we started our company with just 1,000 Nigerian naira. We built it to multi-billion corporation on 4 continents today. But the principle started with choosing to say, out of the what is not enough, I am going to save. The second habit is now the habit of investing what has been saved. Because saving in itself will make you rich. It's what you do with what you have saved that will then help you to become rich. If you're able to invest what you save, if you're able to do business with what you've saved, then you're on your way to building wealth.
The book Billionaire Habits also talks about having rich friends or worthy friends. How can that help someone to create wealth and eventually become rich?
There are many other habits spoken about in the book, relational habits. For example, two poor people cannot help themselves. One must get to the top before he throws the rope to help the other. Okay, so who are your friends? Show me 5 of your friends. Your current bank account or bank balance is the average of the 5 closest people to you. So if you are serious about building wealth, one of the first principles you now need to start having wealthy people as friends. Particularly for people like us who are not rich, we are not born rich. It means that most of our friends were also poor. So it takes a lot of intentionality to lower your ego, right? To now begin to become friends with rich people and not think all of them were thieves, because as much as they are corrupt politicians who became rich by stealing money, there are many people who became rich by doing business. I've never taken government contract in my life. Purely, I'm not a politician, I'm a businessman, right? So there are many people like me as well. But guess what? Years ago, when I see anybody with a good car, I say, see them thieves. That's the reason why we are poor. And later I realized that it was a wrong mindset because not all of them stole money. And by just hating people because they are rich, I am exempting myself. You see the point now from possibility of becoming wealthy.
So, creating wealth and becoming rich is also about changing mindset, a change of mindset. You know, many people just look at the rich people as thieves, in quotes, or courtiers.
And it's just a mental shift that needs to occur. In fact, that's why we have a version of the book for pastors called The Billionaire Habits for Pastors. Because pastors too are part of the problem, right? A lot of, not all, but a lot of our pastors as well do not even know how to make money legitimate, except they see false prophecy to members and collect them, right? So, meanwhile, as a pastor, because people equals money, and one of the principles of wealth is called OPM, other people's money. As a pastor, you have the trust of people. You could legitimately look for a business you can start, an investment you can start, even the giving they give you. You could invest it well, such that you become so rich that you'll be helping a lot of poor members. And you don't need to depend on members for you to take good care of yourself. So it's a holistic change that needs to.
Now, about saving, how can someone who is unable to put 3 square meals on the table daily, who has almost nothing, be able to save?
Beautiful question. So what I tell people is you're very right. A lot of times, many of us are in very dear situation, and saving is almost next to impossible. However, you need to know that anytime you make money, what you are doing directly or indirectly is that you are paying everybody else except yourself. So let's assume yourself now. When you got your salary last month, you paid for telecommunication, whether you're using Orange or you're using MTN, you paid. The owners of those telecommunication companies were the ones who got that money. You paid for transportation. If you have a car, you pay for gas. The owner of the filling station became rich, right? You pay for grocery. The mama in the market who sells fufu and all of that became rich. What have you paid yourself? Each time you save money, just see it as you paid yourself, because you paid your landlord. If you're renting a house, you're paying everybody from the little money that comes in. Can you pay yourself? Start with a fraction. You can start with a fraction of 5%, right? 5%. Those who are Muslims give alms to the poor. Those who are Christians pay tithes or give it. See that the same way. Like, you know what? 5% I'm giving myself. After a while, you can increase to 10 or 20 or more. But the principle is that I need to pay myself. Because these people you are paying, it will never end. Your rent will not stop. Your food bills will not stop. Your gas bill will not stop. Every other bill will stop. And it will go to you. In fact, the older you get, the more the bills. So when will you then choose to become rich? So it's an intentional decision. This is also why we then say, be friends with rich people.
So that you can have rich ideas.
Also, so that you can have what we call accountability partners. Because if each time everybody you meet around you, everybody's complaining, see how much you have, right? I couldn't save anything, nothing, right? But you meet rich people. I'll give you an example. One of my first billionaire friends that I became friends with first, he came to my house one day, and we were supposed to, my wife prepared chicken, and I remember what we were eating with another friend. The first thing I said, January, I just shouted January. The perception most of us have is that January things are tough. Everybody's poor. So when I said January, I wanted to follow up with, I'm broke. And then my friend who is a billionaire said, good news. I said, hey, what happened? He said, two of our projects, he's into construction. The two of our projects just got approved. One is 4-point-something billion. The other is 7-point-something billion. I remember I swallowed my saliva and said, even me too, January, something good will happen. But guess what? That was the last January that was difficult for me. Just because I saw that somebody could do it, could structure his life. That January was even the best month. So I had to go back and say, how do I make my January the best month? So I cut down on the expenditure in Christmas. Because you see, poor people buy what they don't need to impress people who don't care. That's why they remain poor. I had to cut down even the school my children was attending. At some point, my children were attending the poorest school in the neighborhood. Today, they attend the most expensive school. Life is in phases, men are in sizes. Leave your size pattern. Some of this money is not enough. If you write down what you spend money on every day, just write it down for 30 days, you see where your money is going. You see that there is still some element of waste. You see what you can avoid for now. It's not forever. It's not forever. At some point, I had to live in the suburb. I couldn't live in the city center because I needed to live in a cheap place. Today, I live in the richest neighborhood. In fact, they say in the whole of Africa, Banana Island. And in Dubai, I live in Dubai now, in Burj Khalifa, the tallest building in the world. Right? But there was a time of my life I had to be living in a suburb.
So, from what you're saying, I can understand that it is important and even imperative to discipline consumption.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You have to ask yourself, and that's why you should write that list. Where is my money going? So if you buy, toothpaste, write it down. Chewing gum, write it down. Transportation, just do it for 30 days. And then go over that list. You see where most of your money is.
If there were 3 words that can make someone or that can help someone, a group of persons, a nation, to create wealth and become rich, what will those words be?
One is hard work plus smart work. Right? Please stop this nonsense that is only smart. Need both. Right? Number 2, consistency. No matter how difficult success is, you can just stay there. Because change strategy. Right? But be consistent. And then the last one, be an investor. Right? Consumer equal to poverty. Production equals to wealth. Africa is poor today because we're a consuming nation. We are not producing enough. We are not exporting enough. That's why our currency is failing us. So once you become an investor, right, instead of consumer, what happens is that the money you have put into those investments is helping to produce services and products. And so you earn dividend, you earn return, you earn what we call passive income. And if you do that consistently for a period of time, you're on your way to it.
Thank you very much, Dr. Stephen Akintayo, for talking to us in this edition of The Inside. Dr. Stephen Akintayo is a Nigerian intercontinental real estate giant and author of the book Billionaire Habits. Stay with us. We'll be right back in a short while. His Royal Majesty Fonzo Fuad III, traditional leader of Babungo in the Ngokutunja Division, Northwest region of the Republic of Cameroon, is still with us. His Royal Majesty, we're going to talk about what you need or what is needed to enhance the protection of these wildlife species like the pangolin that we were talking about. Have you been receiving any assistance as traditional leader from maybe the government, from non-governmental organizations in your efforts to protect the pangolin and other protected wildlife species?
Thank you for this question. First and foremost, to do something, you have to have the love for that thing and the will to do what you are to do. And generally, if you are refusing that somebody should not eat pangolin, I think you should propose something else to that person, like chicken, like pork meat, like goat, like so many methods, options, or ways of living. So that's where we are calling on the various NGOs. We are calling on the Cameroon government. to assist us so that we could be able to provide poultry facilities and production of chicken, production of eggs, so that instead of eating this, they should have an option of eating another thing. So we'll keep crying for that, or we'll keep praying that one day our voices be heard, and we will succeed in the protection of protected species.
His Royal Majesty, if you needed anything to be able to be more effective and efficient in your duty in terms of enhancing the protection of the pangolin, what will you ask for?
What I'll ask for immediately is help given to the women folk, especially because if they have to rear pigs, if they have to rear goats, if they have to rear chicken in the communities, it will definitely make them to understand that instead of eating this animal, I think we should eat this one. That's just what I think. And this fight should be a collective fight for us to protect the environment. It should not be just that of the traditional rulers. It should be a fight for the politicians. It should be the fight for everybody for us to come up with a positive result. That's just what I can ask, and also pray for peace for all of us.
Of course, without peace, it becomes difficult to do much of what we have been talking about now. How is the collaboration with Wild Aid between traditional rulers and Wild Aid in the sensitization of the people on the need to protect the pangolin?
I would say Wild Aid is doing a lot, and we thank Wild Aid for this, because if you follow so many programs, you go down the streets of Yaoundé and Douala, you find signposts where it's clearly written that we are craving for the protection of pangolin. Thanks to Wild Aid, you have many traditional rulers are coming together and talking as one person to protect the pangolin. Wild Aid honestly has been doing a lot. I can even say it's thanks to Wild Aid also that I've come here to the studio in order to express to make my voice heard on the importance to protect this animal, the pangolin.
All right, His Royal Majesty, thank you so much for coming.
You are welcome, and thanks also for inviting me. I have one little thing to tell you is that you should smile often.
All right, thank you for that. So that was His Royal Majesty Fonzofwa III, traditional ruler of Babungo in the Ngokotunja Division, Northwest region of the Republic of Cameroon. Thank you so much for staying with us. That's it for today.